Former Victorian Premier Jeff Kennett is frustrated by the constant reimagining of the Turnbull government's economic policies, and he joins me now from Canberra. Thanks for being with us, Jeff Kennett.
Pleasure, Emma.
Let's start with Malcolm Turnbull's bold plan to allow the states to levy their own income taxes. He dubbed it the most fundamental reform to the Federation in generations. The idea was rejected by the premiers and chief ministers, but now the PM tells us that what he was actually doing all along was calling their bluff. What do you think? Was it a humiliating defeat for the Turnbull government or a clever way to teach the states a lesson?
Emma, I don't think it served any purpose at all. You can't put a major piece of reform before the state premiers 2 days before they meet at COAG and expect the premiers to have had all the information necessary to make the decision. Regardless of that, I thought that the message that came out yesterday, not aimed at the states, and there's no point the Prime Minister blaming the states, but his message yesterday about living within our means almost takes us back to where we were 6 months ago when he assumed office. And that, in my opinion, is the right message. Not only government debt, government spending, but also consumer household debt, because you combine the two and Australia has one of the highest levels of debt in the world. And we do have to address it. So now that the Prime Minister and the Treasurer are back on song, I look forward to a budget that is going to dramatically reduce federal government spending. Because after all, if you have a look at the British budget that came down a couple of weeks ago, they're not only promising to be back in surplus by 2019, they've lowered corporate tax from 30% to 20%, heading towards 17%, which is the rate in Singapore. So they are actually reforming very, very quickly, whereas we've been arguing for a long time it's going to take us 10 years to get back into surplus. Now, can you imagine anyone, any company, any business, any family running losses for 10 years and expecting to remain either viable or as a board in charge of that company? So I'm very pleased tonight to be sitting here with you, knowing that the Prime Minister is, in my opinion, back on message. I think we not only have to stay on message, but he now has to deliver the narrative that will allow him to deliver a budget and go into the election promising for Australians this new opportunity, job opportunities, security for us to live within our means.
You say he's back to the core message and that they're together singing the right song. Wasn't that Tony Abbott's song? You say they're back to the narrative of 6 months ago. What are voters to make of the fact that when Malcolm Turnbull took over in September last year, he said it was to provide the country with better economic leadership?
Well, I think that's where we got to yesterday. I think it's taken us 6 months. I think we've wasted 6 months in both developing the narrative and talking to the public about it. But as you know, I'm more about tomorrow, the future. Yesterday is history. So I'm pleased where we are today, and I'm now looking forward to seeing the narrative delivered by all members of the government, and more importantly, that being reinforced through the budget. And then obviously as we go into the election. This is not the time when popularity should be seen to be more important than good governance.
Raising the GST has now been dismissed, ditto for changes to negative gearing, and now the latest proposal for the states to levy their own income taxes. What do you expect is likely to emerge in terms of meaningful tax reform now? Well,
funnily enough, I haven't been consulted, and nor do I expect to be, but I would imagine the government's going to have a real effort to change the way in which superannuation is administered. Now, that in one sense is disappointing because people are trying to prepare with some security for the period when they're not working, but on the other hand, I think it's very generous to those who are in a better economic position than others. So I'm expecting big changes there. But you've also got to actually look at federal government expenditure itself. And there has to be some very major inroads made. Now, I don't know where they're going to do it. Some of it will be unpleasant. But that's why we've got to get the narrative right. That's why the simple message of living within our means is correct, because every household understands as a household that we've got to live within our means. State governments, municipal governments, federal governments have got to do it. So rather than the PM saying to the states, look, you go and raise taxes, he's actually got to set the agenda. He's got to prove to the states and the municipalities that he's going to do unto himself what he's expecting others to do.
Only last week you wrote an opinion piece where you compared Malcolm Turnbull to Kevin Rudd. In fact, you said he wasn't particularly dissimilar to the former Labor leader. What did you mean?
Well, I guess, again, I like to look forward rather than back, and that column's a week old now. But there are similarities. They're both very bright individuals. Both of them, I don't think, have exhibited great strengths of being team people, so they haven't been able to build a team around them. I don't like the way in which we've said on one hand all options are going to be left on the table, as all options should be on the table for any government, so they've got the levers at their disposal to do what's in the interest of the country, and a lot of those levers have now been removed. So I feel as though this period of 6 months, as I said earlier, has been wasted. But I still want Malcolm Turnbull and his team to win, and win convincingly, because Australia needs a strong government. But we've got to win for the right reasons, and the right reasons can be phrased in the terms that he's used, that we've got to start living within our means. If we don't do it, the rest of the world will do it to us. So, yes, I've been disappointed for the last 6 months, I'll be honest with you. Yesterday was the first day I felt a sense of connect. I actually heard a simple message which to me makes a lot of sense. But now you've got to action it. It's not just words, there's got to be action, and that'll be in the budget, or it should be. Is there
a chance, do you think, that Labor could win the next election?
There's always a chance, of course, in a two-horse race. But I think it's highly unlikely. I think the memories of previous Labor governments are too clear in the minds of the majority of the public. I think Malcolm still has a lot of goodwill being extended to him, but we need to simplify the message. We need to stand up for the things that he believes in, and there's a number of things that he has discarded in that way as he walks towards the election. I'm quite sure that whether we have a double dissolution or the election goes to the end of the year, we're not going to, that is, the coalition forces are not going to win control of the Senate. I think that's been lost, that opportunity. The big question now is for the Prime Minister to win well enough so he still has moral leadership of the government that he hopefully will lead after the election.
How united do you think the coalition party room is under Malcolm Turnbull versus what they were like under Tony Abbott?
Oh, well, different leaders, different times, but as we get towards the election, I think people's minds are going to be focused on survival. Again, I just go back to living within our means. For the first time, we've got a simple message. And I think that's going to bring those who have different points of view to the cause very quickly indeed. It's a very simple message that everyone will understand.
What did you make of today's news that fellow Victorian Kevin Andrews would consider challenging Malcolm Turnbull?
I think I also saw a report from him that he believed he was taken out of context.
But he said in that very report, he said actually no challenge before the election. He didn't rule it out entirely.
No, but Emma, I wouldn't worry about it. Look, whether it's Kevin, whether it's Tony Abbott, the reality is good government, clear government, will always override either those within the forces that are disgruntled, or, can I suggest, the media who are looking to create mischief.
I think you've created a bit of mischief yourself, Mr Kennett.
How could I do that, Emma, please? How would I create mischief?
Treasurer Scott Morrison says he and the PM are quite good pals, to phrase him in its accurate context. The PM's office set up a photo opportunity of the two of them getting into a car together. Can you shed any light for us on the strength of that relationship?
None at all. No one talks to me. I'm a pensioner. I'm surprised you even had my number. Look, again, I just say, to me it's about the future. I've been honest with you. I've said I've been very disappointed in the last 6 months. I think we've wasted so many opportunities. But yesterday was a new day, and I hope that also is shown in the way in which Malcolm works with his team. I heard him yesterday say that this election was about Bill Shorten and Malcolm Turnbull. It's not. It's about the best team to actually guide this government over the next 3 or 4 years. On your own, an individual achieves nothing. Even when Cathy Freeman won that wonderful race in Sydney in the year 2000, she alone didn't win it. There was a team of people over the years who'd helped to get to that position. Malcolm's got to understand that he is one of a team, and the more he can bring that team together, the more likely he is going to get the sort of result at the next election he desires. It's not about Malcolm, it's not about Bill Shorten, it's about the calibre of the team. Again, I hope yesterday was a line in the sand. I am enthused about what I heard yesterday, and to me, I now look forward to seeing a time when Malcolm and the Treasurer work very closely together, as they do with all their colleagues. The public are sick and tired of disunity, whether it be Labor or Liberal. They want a government to govern, but they want a government to have a simple message which they explain to the public while they're putting it into place. And I have no doubt about it. The public actually like leadership. They just want to see it, and they want to see it clearly.
Jeff Kennett, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Emma, the pleasure is all mine.
You're about to meet two mothers who've experienced